Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the eDiscovery channel. This is Tom O'Connor, of course, from New Orleans, Louisiana. Really happy to have with me today old friend Sheila Grela, who is now officially in her title Senior Paralegal and Certified eDiscovery Specialist at Buchalter. And am I saying that correctly? I always wonder if I'm pronouncing it.
Yes, you are.
Buchalter? Yes,
Buchalter.
in lovely San Diego, California. My second favorite town in the entire country. Um, I'm asking Sheila here today. I've asked Sheila to be here today to get the outlook of AI from the people who are the real users. I was at ILTACON a few weeks ago, and I've talked to a few folks, and of course AI was everywhere, and not necessarily in a negative way. There was a lot of good discussion going on, but I wasn't really sure there was a lot of in-depth discussion going on, especially for somebody who might be outside of the AmLaw 100. It seemed to me that was the real focus of most of the discussion. So, Sheila, what's your take? Are you using AI? Are you looking at AI? Are you are you
Our
putting
firm
the AI coffee cup over on the side?
our firm has programs that use AI, but AI itself is not a permissible thing for us to use.
Okay.
That being said, my number one recommendation for paralegals and litigation support people is that if you have no access, to go ahead and get an account and then to consider what you want to learn and use it as a learning tool. So I have been suggesting that if you, for instance, like myself, have something you're studying, you want to not only get fresh material for yourself, but you want to be able to work at it from different angles. So I'm going to give my favorite use that I did when I was learning. I hate gathering little pieces of information from a book that's 800 pages. And I, um, when you take the IAPP CIP US exam, one of the questions they're going to ask you is, hey, do you have a right to sue? Can you sue on this particular item? So I literally went into the system, explained what I wanted, got it to give me a chart, and then the studying part came when I not only read through it, but looked at my book as to where that information was in the book, and it cemented it. So my thing is use it as a nexus for something you're working on. Don't use it as a toy. Okay. Now, that being said, have I used it for my writing or the presentations? Yes, but I have not used it for work because my work that I do does not have a need to go outside of our present things to do chat GPT or any of them co-pilot things. Do I want to? I'm already doing it in that David Cohen was sweet enough to let me go to Solid AI at Microsoft. And so I have Sandbox and I'm looking at the agentic AI, which is a completely, totally different thing. And I'm sure we're not going to discuss it, but my point is things are evolving so fast that if you aren't presently understanding enough of AI to have a basic foundation of the glossary of the concepts, please go ahead and pay the 20 bucks and get your own account. And if you're not sure what you need to do with it or how you need to do, my second recommendation is it has a really nice feature to let you make projects. Okay, so put your project that you're working on up there. Hey, I'm studying X, put a project. Then it asks you to give it documents, to give it information. And of course, like anything, it has its limitations, but I will say that it makes you think because you're reading things from a different perspective.
So
So,
you made a great distinction there, though, which I think not enough people are making, which is um, things like reading and presentations and projects you're working on and learning with your own data, and a litigation case.
right.
So AI across the board in the law firm, as opposed to AI in litigation. Um, and I think that's where there's a lot of confusion because although they're both maybe using the same or similar underlying or engines, AI engines, they're not necessarily, as you just said, the same nexus, the same tools to use, the same skill set. And knowing one is not necessarily knowing the other. You said before we got online that sometimes in litigation you think using an LLM on a small project is like using an anvil to swat at a fly. I thought that was a great analogy. I don't
Yes.
need it. It's not the. It's like I always say. It's like if although I don't have one, but it's like taking a Lamborghini to go down to the 7-Eleven to get a half a gallon of milk, right?
Now, I also said that those small projects should give you a card or a list of things to curate. So, as an example, I'm in the middle of doing an analysis for an attorney who's given me a set of documents that I have to do a little finessing, a little this, and I want eventually to be able to do some of this with the firm's future uh, AI that's in-house. Well, then I should be keeping a project under my chat of what kind of things can I do in the future and where can I start? Because one of the problems I'm having is people are doing it from a dead stop. You do not run a race without having warmed up. You do not start something without knowing where you're going. And I'm listening to people who telling me what they're doing, and I'm seeing those two things as a huge problem. You need to warm up. You need to know what it can do, where you're at, what's happening, but you also need to know where you're going. And I know that it's kind of one of those hateful things you've heard me say repeatedly, but my journalism rules, I always say to the paralegals, the mentees, you're stuck. Go back to your journalism rules. Go back to the questions. You know, you need to be able to ask the questions of this wonderful tool in such a way as to get answers out of it. And you also need to do the things you do by having it do it for you. So my favorite thing is to say, okay, you gave me this and I've written this. What could I possibly be missing? And what might I have put too much of? All these questions, to be blunt, that your boss would ask you. You know, if you don't know what to ask about something you're doing for yourself, for your own personal stuff, just pretend that you're your own boss for a moment and then ask those questions.
And the other thing you mentioned, and I think well, there's two subjects that I want to just get your take on, but you just mentioned LLMs and the use of LLMs, and we're talking about that with project size. Um, Everything seems to be geared for LLMs, of course, large language model, and we very often in our arena have small document sets, smaller. Um, and so my question is, if there were a small language model that were available, that was, of course, would be priced much better than the large language models, um, and but also easier to use with small document sets, would that incline you more to take a look at it?
Yes, especially if it's integrated with some sort of methodology for doing case management slash um, culling of the data for use later. So I always use the example of what do paralegals do for a case? And the answer always surprises people. A lot of times our job is about finding out what's important and putting it at everyone's fingertips. I had an attorney I worked for who was a former civil engineer, and he was completely the opposite of me. He was so fastidious that it got to be a little unnerving for many people. I didn't find it unnerving because it taught me so many things that I didn't know needed to be done to prevent problems. So, in my own way, I would try and set up something that was its own mini database in Word for them to pull things out. It had links to the documents, and I had a very simple rule. If a document needs to be used as a reference, a resource, or as a list in the future, it should be listed on that sheet. And I think that sheet for me got up to like 15 pages. And I had a people list that was, no joke, 75 people, 75 pages of people. Now, that's not one line. Each person could have, up to a third of a page of information. But the point I'm making is I see that small model helping paralegals do that as they go without making it press their brain to the pushing point.
Yeah.
Okay, so as an example, the reason why I have that particular mentality is from a former life. I used to be the person when we got a new case in or a case got transferred that I went through the boxes.
Right.
I put the information together for the attorney to do the first carrier report.
Yep.
I organized all of that in such a way that when the information went out, we knew what we had, what we didn't have, and what potentially might be a problem and what we might need to do. Now, all of those things, there's so many moving parts.
Yep.
So, do I see your tool that you're talking about being helpful? Absolutely.
It's interesting you
Especially,
should say that because I saw at ILTA, I saw three products, three separate products, which tells me these people are starting to think this way, which are not designed as review tools, but are designed to do more what Purview used to do. Microsoft is changing Purview now as part of their Copilot universe. But the idea being to do exactly what you're saying, to do an initial sort of ECA analysis of everything, pull out what's relevant, what's important, based on a statement from you into the project, but using AI not as your first pass review tool, but as a first pass, as you said, culling and saving for future use what's in there that I think is important.
yes,
It's really interesting to me that we're seeing some vendors start to like it's like the lights going on over their heads, like, oh, wait a minute, this could be useful. So the
yes,
other thing I just want to touch on real quickly, and you mentioned it also a minute ago, because this was the big deal at ILTA. Now, it wasn't enough that it was AI; it had to be agentic AI. It was like that's the new buzzword. It was like, oh my God, we haven't adequately described and defined and explained to everybody what AI is. Now we've got Uber AI, right? AI squared. Um, okay, well your face says it all.
I, okay, I have a real problem with the fact that we have small firms that still summarize their depositions using PageLine. And then we're going to tell them they need to learn something as sophisticated. I'm not saying agentic AI is complicated, it's sophisticated. And in that, I think basic understanding of data should be a prerequisite to the adventure that you're moving from something that everyone's in to something everyone's going to be in.
That's
Okay.
great, calling it an adventure. I love that. It's like, okay, let's get let's get our backpacks on and our mittens and get ready for our next adventure as we move into
Well,
the wonderful world of agentic AI.
I like the whole premise that we all should be involved, that we all should be calling the shots, but I also question the fact that if we are calling the shots and we're asking everyone to participate. We need to give them tools to have the competency they need to deal with data, to deal with the tech with the clients. Um, I mean,
That's the last really subject I wanted to talk about. You just segued right into it. Who's training us on this? Where's the education coming from? There's a lot of marketing hype and people talking about how much you need this, but who's telling us how to use it? Is anybody? No. Yeah. Okay.
no, but there are people who have soapboxes that are important. I believe Duke University has one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then you have people like me who don't have a lot of expertise, but are writing articles about the experience to try and get people to consider what they need to do. I am not an expert in AI. I'm an expert in the fact that I want to use every tool that's available to get the most for our clients. Now, that being said, how do you do that if you don't have a basic understanding of how the environments are working? I ask questions and people go, "Well, why is that important to me?" And I said, "It's not. It's important to your client, so you're going to have to make it important to you." If you're in a litigation where your client has a sophisticated business that they're working on, they will, I would say 95% of the time, they're using a program or a database that is to the letter only meant for that particular
Yeah.
business.
And do
Okay,
they really understand it or do they leave that to you?
they use it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I laugh and I'm going, oh, did anyone bother to look that this was generated out of a database? Can I just have the data?
Yeah. Right. Give me the data and we'll
Can I
massage.
have
We'll
the
use,
data? I
I got a
mean,
whole bunch of tools I could use, right?
yeah, right. I mean, but you'd be amazed at how many people want to start with, let's just get this done.
Yeah.
And my question is, well, we want to defend our client or pursue their claims. And either way, we have to know three things as a litigation paralegal. Okay. And that is always going to be the same. We need the facts, the documents, and who are the witnesses. And it's my job as a paralegal to tie those three things to the issues in the case.
There you go. That's a perfect ending to all of this. If your program can't help you do that, then it's not going to help you, right? And
I would agree. I,
and let's hope that people. I think people are listening. Again, as I said, I saw a lot of movement. Two things I saw at Ilticon. One were something you just said, um, uh, using AI in a program to cut across everything in the firm and move information or help move information and get a handle on information. Just not just my evidentiary information, but everything. And I think there's a sense of that. And the second thing is to understand that we need a little bit deeper understanding of how AI works in the litigation world specifically, and to break that out. But I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. I think we're seeing some acknowledgement of that. So it'll be interesting to see how much that breaks out in the next year. Let's give you a chance to plug what you're doing. What you got going on? Any good paralegal meetings, webinars? Anything you want to mention before we leave?
I just want to say how much I'm going to miss Kaylee Walstead. I
Oh
feel about
yes,
her the same way I do about your lovely wife. And oh, I'm wearing bling for Gayle today. I had on a plain shirt and I'm like, I gotta bling it up because Gayle would have blinged it up. And so I'm wearing my dragonfly for
we
you
were
all.
doing a webinar the other day, and somebody asked us for some memories of Kaylee, and I said the one that's hit me continuously since she passed was one day at Legal Tech New York, walking outside in the front of the building at the old hotel, and she and Gayle were out front smoking, um, and the two of them were just, when I walked up, they were laughing hysterically about something. I just have this vivid memory of Kaylee just laughing and laughing and laughing at something that Gayle had said, that I'm sure they were talking about those of us from the show who were going in and like look at the shoes on that guy. What a dork. Doesn't he know there's 2 feet of snow out there? But just this vivid memory, not of a work thing as much as just the joy of life that she brought to the table, and the amount of energy. And yeah, we're really going to miss her. So
One of the last things I did with Gail uh, was that an interview that we did together.
yep,
Remember?
yep.
And one of the last things that Kaylee did before the sudden passing for me was she sending me to Relativity Fest as an
Oh,
embassy for EDRM. I'm going to speak.
oh,
And
great. Well,
yes,
in fact, I was just online this morning looking at flames. I'll be there. So
well, I look forward to it. And
that's a great way to close this. To say it's only about a month away now, right? It's the first week
right.
of
Well,
October. Yeah,
and don't forget that if you didn't get a chance to meet either of these wonderful ladies, please emulate them and remember to tell people specifically what they have done to make your day better, because that's what we all need to
yeah.
encourage ourselves to continue with what we do.
That's great. Great closing words. I appreciate your time, Sheila. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to. I, I don't know if I really want to ask. What's the weather like in San Diego?
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, thanks.
It's
That's all you got. All right,
absolutely
that's it.
beautiful.
We're not having a bad day. It's actually
My my
cooled
my
off here, but
brother, my brother from Alabama drove out.
ah,
He was going from 60 to 66 to go to Santa Monica. He made the mistake of calling my husband, and my husband's like, "Just drive down here."
yeah, boy,
So
Santa
my
Monica. Come on,
right.
take a
So
left.
my
Take
so
a
my
left.
husband he takes them to the Coronado. They get to walk
Yeah,
on the Silver
there
Strand.
you go. There you
Yeah, I
go.
mean,
I love it.
it's been beautiful.
All right.
And you are welcome anytime you want.
Well,
You know that.
hopefully, I've been talking to Bill again about December, speaking at the luncheon meeting in December. So I'll hope to firm that up sometime this month, and be out there for my annual
Yeah.
Christmas visit to San Diego. So
And we are always happy not only to have your word of advice on small and solo, but we're also happy with your encouragement, as we were discussing before we got on, that competency is not a one-time thing. It
yeah,
is a continual thing.
yeah.
And who are
Especially
you
now when
learning?
technology has gotten it's crazy. It's
Who are you
changing so
learning
fast.
from?
Yeah,
Who are you learning from?
yeah.
I love that. That we should you and I should write a guest blog for Doug on that.
Well,
Who are
we
you
should. You know
learning
what? I'll
from?
follow up with you because I get asked all the time. What's your um, what's your go-to resources?
Yes,
I was on
but
a webinar a week or so ago, and David Horrigan said that. What are your go-to resources? So let's do that. Sheila,
absolutely.
great to talk to you. I appreciate your time once again, and I'll see you in about a month in Chicago at Relativity Fest.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care.